Hello and welcome to Smash Hit Sports. I'm your host, Cody. Today, we're talking Scott Frost. We're talking college football week 0. We're going into week 1 predictions. We're doing our college football playoff predictions before the start of the season. I have an incredible guest today, Jake Circus, former play-by-play announcer for the Western Nebraska Pioneers. Yes, those Western Nebraska Pioneers. Everybody knows them. You're, Independence League champion, I believe?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is that right? Let's
That
go.
is right.
Independence League champion. He does football and gambling content for U Stadium. Host of the Jake Circus podcast on Spotify. The Jake Circus. Jake, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Man, what an intro! It's been a while since we've shot out together, Big Cody. I'm happy to be here. You know, I've got the lights, the color, the amount of money that we're gonna make for the green this season for college football and NFL. Just all money so far. Had a nice little week 0. Cash on Northwestern. That was a pretty big play for me. Cash on Vandy.
Love that.
New Mexico State kind of screwed me a little bit. They were playing with a backup quarterback and still almost covered. But that was like such a messy game at like 11:30 Central Time. I was like, come on, just please get a touchdown in garbage time, and they didn't. But we had a good week 0, but we are turning the page, looking forward to week 1, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, when you look at a college football score at any point and you see the number 2, like just the number 2, you're like, oh, it's one of those kind of games, huh? So
yeah.
We almost got the cover on the back end. I was also on New Mexico State, but we couldn't get the back door
Only
cover.
week 0 is only in week 0 do we consensusly bet on arguably like the worst the worst team in college football. New Mexico State's been like the 129th best team in college football the last like half decade, and obviously everyone tries to get them to the +9 against a Nevada team that just isn't any good at all. They might be like a couple of spots better than the Aggies. So, you know, we almost got there. But it was the right side, I think.
Yeah, speaking of being on the right side of things, congrats on being on the right side of Northwestern. Nebraska fucked me. Scott Frost, you are on the do not bet list for the rest of your tenure at Nebraska, but God only knows how long that is. How hot is his seat right now? There can't be a hotter seat in college football.
I think going into the year, this was the hottest seat because I don't think like no one was doing any favors for Scott Frost. He was getting no sympathy for the 3-9 season, even though they had all those one possession losses. No one in the sport was giving him any sympathy. He had to get it done. And he had a great chance to start the year off strong in a week 0 game going across the pond against a conference game in week 0 for a big school like Nebraska. Great opportunity, right? And he fell flat on his face. The game went how I thought it was going to go. I thought Nebraska was going to pull it off both before the game when I made the prediction for the +13.5 and then during the game. Even when Nebraska was like the onside kick happened and then Northwestern scored twice in like 5 minutes, I was like, okay, I think Nebraska's still going to win this game. And then all of a sudden we look, there's 6 minutes left and Northwestern's running the clock out. It's pretty hot. And I think October 1st is the date where the buyout shrinks 50%. So that's probably when he'll be let go unless they kind of turn the corner a little bit. They have a couple easier non-conference games. Oklahoma's coming up soon. I think they play South Dakota next week, this upcoming week. So they should understandably beat them. And then they got a close one against Oklahoma. The look-ahead line there, I think, was like 3.5, 4. Look, nobody really... Like I don't feel like anyone outside of the state of Nebraska is like rooting for Scott Frost to succeed. But at some point he has to prove he's like a good coach, and in 4 years or in 5 years and 1 game he hasn't done that. So the seat's very hot, and there's a lot of talent on that team. They're gonna play really fast all year. I think Casey Thompson is the best quarterback he's had, either at UCF or at Nebraska. I'm really high on Casey Thompson. At times he was really good on Saturday. At times he was not. But they're going to play fast. They got Whipple from Pittsburgh, the OC, so they're going to play fast. They're going to score points, but they're not really a complete team, not all on Scott Frost. But in 5 years, they're still getting beaten down up front. And look, Northwestern always has good fronts, but they're a bottom-tier Big Ten team. A team like Nebraska cannot look like that early in the season against Northwestern and lose as that big of a favor. It's just a mess at this point.
Yeah, I saw some statistic on Twitter. Scott Frost would have to win like the next 50 games, and he still wouldn't have as good of a record as Bo Pelini was when Bo Pelini was fired. So,
yeah.
Talk about a downhill spiral.
There's really not any margin for error for any big school coach, and the fact that he's like in his 5th year already is crazy to me. Like I feel like he just got here. But like no one's really talked about Nebraska the last couple of years. Last year they got a bunch of buzz because they had all these close losses. But like they should be playing with big teams. They should be playing with Michigan, playing with Michigan State, playing with Penn State because there's so much talent. But it's so clear and obvious that the right man is just not at the wheel right now.
Yeah, especially in the Big Ten West. Like there's no division arguably in the Power 5 that's more open than what the Big Ten West is. And they still can't get it done. I think Wisconsin was the favorite going into the season. I think their win total was 8.5 for the West, but like Iowa was 7.5. Minnesota is 7.5. Nebraska was 7.5. There were so many teams that were right there in the Big Ten West. For Nebraska to just fall flat on their face in the opener was just tough to watch. But it was great to watch because holy shit, college football is so back.
So they're gonna fire him, and they're gonna go out for a big fish, and they're probably gonna fall flat on their face and fail because they're not a USC, they're not a Miami, they're not a Texas. But when you look at, so they got Frost from UCF, Frost's replacement, Josh Heupel, got a bigger job and is killing it with Tennessee. It looks really bad for Nebraska when you factor in everything that it's already year 5 and what Heupel's done with Tennessee. It's not crazy linear comparisons, but it matters a little bit, and it's a big fan base, and they're walking on eggshells a lot in Lincoln, I bet.
I mean, Tennessee is honestly a pretty good comparison to Nebraska, both in big conferences, both had some ridiculous success in the 90s, and where are we now? I mean, Tennessee seems to be on the rise. I could absolutely see them finishing second in the SEC East, so we'll see how that goes. It'll be an interesting, division to watch. But let's get into. Is there any other week 0 you want to touch on? I mean, outside of a Hawaii over hitting in the opener is just chef's kiss. Nothing like seeing that. I had to put obviously I didn't put a full unit on it because I didn't actually love the bet. Hawaii's offense is objectively terrible, but you had to put some money on it. It's just tradition at this point.
It is a tradition. I took a look at both those defenses last year. Were outside of the top 110 in everything in terms of success rate, explosive rate. It's bad. I didn't really think that Hawaii could have kept up with them. I thought they'd start slow in Timmy Chang's first game. I don't really know what Timmy Chang has with Hawaii right now. They're kind of a mess. So is Vandy. But hey, Vandy won their first game. It was a fun it was a fun week 0 game to talk about for a couple of weeks when there was nothing when there was nothing to talk about. Now we can turn the page and remember, okay, Vandy's shit and Hawaii, they're going to be really bad this year. Outside of the one time they're on 3-11, and I bet everything I have on Hawaii to cover that night. Hopefully that doesn't happen though.
Beautiful.
Hopefully we avoid that.
Tradition unlike any other. A tradition unlike any other. So let's do, before we get into week 1, because I know there's going to be a ton to talk about in week 1. We get some Thursday night football, Friday football, Saturday
Monday
football. It's beautiful. I love Labor Day weekend. You can't beat it. But before we get into that, let's do our college football playoff predictions. I have not seen yours, and I'm really excited to. I want to hear yours first. I have a hunch we have the same one too.
Really? So, the pod I released this morning had my picks. I went chalk for 1 and 2 because how can you not? I was reading some articles on The Athletic, and there were a couple beat writers who didn't have Bama and Ohio State, and that's fine. I'm with the crew of, let's just go away from the mold and just pick something that no one else chooses. But you're going to be wrong. These teams are going to be Alabama's going to be playing in Atlanta, and Ohio State's going to be playing in Indianapolis in mid-December. That's just what's going to happen. Because these two teams, I think Bama's the best team on paper I've ever seen, and Ohio State could have the best offense ever. So, they're really good. So I have Bama and Ohio State 1-2. I don't think Bama loses. We judge teams or judge coaches based on how often they fuck up, and no one fucks up less than Nick Saban. And Ryan Day hasn't really fucked up yet. I don't put the Michigan loss really on Ryan Day. I think they're going to turn the page and start over this year, and with all the returners and the talent, and kind of start over on defense, bringing in the Oklahoma State DC, who, I mean, that defense was phenomenal the last couple of years.
He did an unbelievable job last year. It was incredible.
So they like just sniped him. It was like January, February. They were like, "Oh, he's coming to Ohio State. Nice." Like they always needed him, because the way that the Bucks looked up front was really worrisome down the stretch last year. I think it's going to be really hard for that to be the case again, just because of how much talent. They didn't lose a whole lot, and obviously the receivers, we can talk about them forever. And then
just reload.
Yeah, and then they have a Heisman running back, and then they have a Heisman quarterback. And look, Ryan Day's won 90% of his conference games. He wins 9 of every 10 conference games. I think it's even more than that by now. The Michigan loss might have screwed it up, but I'm pretty sure he's at least won like 9 of every 10 conference games, which is phenomenal. So give me Bama and Ohio State 1-2. I'll go Clemson 3. They'll go to 3 when Georgia loses. I think Clemson stays undefeated longer than Georgia. My take on Georgia is they're like a really good team. Like they're always really good. People think about last year when they had all these NFL players and they had like a magic in a bottle year, but I don't think they're going undefeated 2 years in a row with Stetson Bennett. I just I look at it that way, and I see, okay, this is going to be a Georgia team from 2016 and 2018 where they're really good. They might, they're probably going to win the East, but they're not better than Bama. They're not even close to Bama. And then I think, for a long time, Kirby, not going to make coaches who fuck up. Kirby fucked up. Like, he fucks up every year. Like, last year was got over the hump. This year with, I think, limitation at quarterbacks, I'm not high on Stetson. I was impressed that he had the ability to run a very talented JT Daniels out of town. So that was cool for him. He's fine, but in terms of top-tier SEC quarterback play, Stetson Bennett's not it. So I don't think they're going to go undefeated. I think they lose maybe one of the games in Kentucky or Tennessee. I think they have them back-to-back. So, tough. They're going to fuck up. Yeah. Looking at college football schedules, it's hard to say, oh, they're going to lose this game, because it's just hard to do it that way. But they're going to fuck up. So I have them as a 1-loss non-conference, or 1-loss regular season, 2-loss overall. Not good enough for the top 4. Clemson at 3. I know DJ's still quarterback. I saw this kid play in high school. He can throw it. He just needs a little time. And his back's against the wall with Cade Klubnik lurking. So
with Klubnik in the background there, like he's going to either put up or shut up. Like there's no in between here this year. He's either going to be the guy or he's gonna get benched.
And the thing with Clemson is people don't really understand that they had the best defense in college football last year. It was not Georgia. It was Clemson. Clemson, by every metric that matters, had a better defense than Georgia. Everyone's coming back.
Clemson's front seven is disgusting.
They're so athletic. I remember in 2018, Lawrence's freshman year, when Farrell and Wilkins and they all came back for their senior year, and everyone was talking about the Clemson's D-line. And it's just as good this year. People don't know the names yet.
Yep.
But they will. Like, I look at someone on Alabama like Dallas Turner, like where people are just gonna figure out who he is by October. But like people will know these Clemson names by Halloween. They're really good. They're as good as any D-line Clemson that we've seen in quite some time. So I think Clemson's defense will carry them to a lot of conference wins, and the offense will pick it up eventually, because they kind of did last year. They have a full camp. No limitations, so I like Clemson a lot this year in a bounce-back year. I mean, they've made the playoff over half the time, so is it really a bad pick picking Clemson and coming off of a down year where they went 10-3? No. So, and the number 4 was really hard for me, because I could have gone Georgia, but I don't want to be a fucking loser who just chooses the top 4, because that never happens, and it's not going to happen this year. So, I like Utah. I like Utah, but my issue is, no, that's not my team. I like Utah. I think Cameron Rising is my sleeper for the Heisman, because if they do end up doing what people think they are and making the playoff, he's going to play really well and probably get invited to the ceremony, which he might win it. We don't know. I love Cameron Rising. He threw for like 600 yards against my high school a couple years ago. Fun fact. I was there.
Ooh,
It was sick.
love that.
Yeah, it killed us. And he's sick. So Rising, I think he's great. Tough as nails. But they have their schedule's grouped really weird. They have a let me pull it up. They have some tough let me pull it up.
Yeah, open up against Florida this week, which we'll talk about.
Right, we'll talk about that. I think they lose that game, but even if they don't, they host SDSU, a game that was really close last year, a game they lost last year. They have revenge there, so I think they win there. And then, not even after the bye, going into the bye, they get UCLA at home. Go to UCLA and then host USC the next week. So it's grouped pretty weirdly for their tough games are like back to back, and then they get Oregon on the road.
Yep.
So
and
kind of my thinking here is most likely, unless I'll get to this in a sec. If Utah wants to make the playoff, they're not only going to have to beat UCLA and USC back-to-back weeks, they're going to have to go to the Swamp and win, but they're also going to have to beat Oregon for the third and fourth consecutive time. Because they swept them last year. Neither of the games were close, but Oregon's a different team. Utah kind of has the same team coming back, but Oregon's a different team. I think Oregon's slated to be pretty good this year. Again, they always are. But seriously, I think that's unlikely. I don't really see a world where they win all those games. Now maybe they could sneak in as a one-loss team if they lose to Florida close and then run the table in the Pac-12 and go undefeated in a conference that's going to be improved this year. Maybe, but I don't. I have the other Pac-12 team. I think USC is going to win it and be 4 by the end of the year. I'm going Bulls. Same thing with their schedule. It's grouped kind of weird. Rice and Stanford, they're going to kill both those teams. So, then you might say, well, they're going to struggle because they have all these new players. I don't give a fuck if you bring in like someone random to block. Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams, Mario Williams, Jordan Addison. You can put them anywhere in the country, and they're just going to play football. And they're like, I think of it like this: like you take a talented guy out here and put him on the football field here. He's just going to ball up. Like it's just how it works. So I agree that they might start slow. They might have some rust because I kind of heard like that in camp. That camp isn't going so good. I don't know how much I care about that. But Rice and Stanford, they'll kill. Fresno is a little bit worrisome for me. I love Fresno State this year. We'll talk about that when we talk about win totals.
I love Fresno. Yeah,
I really like Fresno State. I think that's a tough game, but USC. But the thing with USC is you have to be really careful picking them to be upset because for a team to beat them, they have to outscore them. And all these games are going to be track meets, so it's going to be so hard for a team that's just not up to their level of offensive ability to outscore them for 60 minutes. And as good as Fresno is, they have one of the best defenses in their group of 5 and also an All-American type quarterback in Jake Haener. But they don't have enough to keep up with USC. Then we go Oregon State, Arizona State, Washington State, 2 of those games at home.
Not a chance.
All tune-ups, and then they get the Utah game going into the bye. So that's the game. They don't play Oregon, and then end of the year, back-to-back, UCLA, Notre Dame. I think they lose one of those games, but by that time, if they're undefeated going into that game, they're going to be in the top 4.
Yeah.
They're going to be in the top 4. So if they lose, but then let's say, because remember for the Pac-12, there's no divisions anymore for the seeding. So if they then lose to Notre Dame, which would be fine, or if they lose to UCLA and then go beat Utah again or beat Oregon in wherever I think it's at Levi's Stadium, the Pac-12 title game. I think it's at Levi's. Yeah. So if they go to Levi's and beat Utah or beat Oregon, they'll be right back in the top 4. So I have USC. I'm a very, very pro USC this year. I get the defense, but they're gonna be really fun. So they got I forget his name. They have like 2 superstar defensive transfers that they got. So they've been getting.
Yeah, they brought in that DB that I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
they've got Riley's gonna get guys, and USC should be getting guys. College football is better. Like I'm a gigantic Notre Dame fan. Bleed green and gold, but football is better when USC is good. Football is just better when USC is good. I'm excited for Caleb Williams in that squad. I just don't think that you can go from a 4-win team like they were last year to college football playoff ready. It's going to be difficult. And for that reason, I have Ohio State. I have Alabama. All the same reasons. We don't need to go over that again. I also have Clemson. I think Klubnik is going to be the guy there. I think that they are going to drop a game with DJ Uyunglele, and Klubnik will come in and be that guy. And I think he takes them to the playoff. But either way, that team is good enough that with either quarterback, one loss, they could get in. I think this is the first year that we could see possibly a 2-loss team getting in. I think it's more likely this year than it has been in years past. However, I will take 1-loss Utah. If Utah loses to USC and then beats USC in the title game, I think is what it's going to come down to. Give me Utah, but I think we get somebody out of the Pac-12 this year.
It's very possible. Yeah, the path for Utah is a bit different than USC, because I think if USC beats Utah and then loses to them, might be tough, because then they'll already have, I think, a loss to Notre Dame on that schedule. Utah doesn't have to play Notre Dame, so if Utah loses the first game, then they can go back and beat them, and then they would help them. So the paths are a little different, but I do like the Pac-12 this year. My favorite thing about USC is how they've kind of just acknowledged the evil empire type. Like, they don't give a fuck. They're going to go out and they're going to take your head coach. They're going to take your star receiver. They're going to take your quarterback. They're going to leave the conference that they've called home since 1922. They're back. Now, they still haven't played a game yet, but they have all the makings to completely shake the sport up. And they have this TV deal, and the sport is better when they're exciting. The sport is better when people hate them. And I love that. I love that.
College football needs a villain. It needs a villain in USC.
Right.
Talk about a more perfect villain. It's beautiful.
I think that it needs a villain that's not Alabama, because Bama's the villain just because they win all the fucking time. But I think USC is the villain because of because they've just terrorized an entire city in like one off season. And the fact that I think if you poll like the Oklahoma fan base, if USC and Texas played in a game, I think that they would all be rooting for Texas.
Which is insane to say.
I seriously believe that. And it's crazy, but I seriously believe that. So I think USC and Bama are different types of villains because of what USC's just done, and they're like, oh, well, fuck you all. But then Bama just wins a lot, but USC's just acknowledged.
They're the
like,
Patriots of college football.
Right. It's us against you, and we'll do all these things. We'll leave the Pac-12. We'll buy into these, Jordan Addison's going to, pose for American Airlines. We don't care. We're just going to score 50 points a game and humiliate you. Which is ironic because that's how opposing offenses, like, that's what they did to them last year. So now they're just gonna it's gonna be a flip of the switch. So we'll see. But a little bit worried about their defense, but I think they'll pick it up. They brought in Oklahoma's DC, which isn't really that exciting. But he was with Ohio State for a couple of years, so I'm also really bad with names, but I know where everyone is and where they came from. Like, but yeah, it's I just think that even though they might start slow, that they're still going to score 40 a game. And it's just going to be a joke.
Oh, it'll be fun. Pac-12 After Dark, so back. But let's move on to the Heisman.
Pac-12 After. I don't know if it's technically Pac-12 After Dark. Sneaky fun game. Boise State, Oregon State, Week 1. Sneaky fun game. Two good teams.
Hey,
in
we'll talk about that one. I got that in my one of my bets. But Heisman voting. I'm going to keep this super quick and easy. It's going to be Stroud or Young. I think they're going to go undefeated. It's going to be Stroud or Young. I hate to say it. On the off chance that I think it might be Young, just because there's going to be so many weapons at Ohio State that they might Henderson and Smith-Njigba and Stroud could all potentially be in New York. Any of those three. So I think Bryce Young is going to repeat. It's boring. Whatever. Who's your Heisman? I need to hear it.
I think voter fatigue is real in college football. I don't really buy it in the NFL.
I agree.
Aaron Rodgers just won the second, another MVP. I don't really, because Rodgers shouldn't have won the MVP last year, and he still did. So, I don't really believe voter fatigue is a thing in football, in NFL. But I think it exists in college football. Bryce Young wasn't, worlds above everyone last year, and I don't think he's going to be this year. I love him.
100%.
I think he's really talented. But I don't think he, broke college football last year. Stroud very well could this year. He has all the makings to do that. So I have Stroud at 1. He's my pick. It's very chalky. He's like plus 120. Like he's like plus 160, which is just goddamn insane for the Heisman. So value-wise, I'm not going to bet that.
Is so chalky this year.
Like value-wise, just don't take that because like don't.
Yeah.
Because like plus
I'm
160,
like Heisman betting, to be honest.
If you take I think what the math is, if you take a plus 160, that has to hit like 37% of the time to be just profitable, like barely, or break even. Like 37, like no one wins the Heisman 37 out of 100 times. It's just like it's bad. Number 2, I have Caleb. I have Caleb. I just think they're going to score so many points.
I like that.
Look, the last 8 of the last 9 Heismans have been for playoff teams. The only one was Lamar Jackson. I don't think there's anyone like maybe Hayden Hooker could kind of have a Lamar type season. He would be on my ballot.
Yeah.
I have him in my top 7. Hayden Hooker from Tennessee. I think he's really good. People talk about Will Levis. I don't really know. Losing Rodriguez for a couple of weeks definitely hurts him. But I have Caleb at 2.
Statistically, I hate him.
Why?
I'm down on Will. He just threw entirely too many interceptions last year. He led the SEC in interceptions, but he was like 6th in pass attempts. I think he turns the ball over too much, and eventually, when Kentucky loses a game that they should not lose, that's what it's going to come down to, and that's going to be the problem.
So I have Caleb at 2 because I feel like I have to be kind of consistent here. If I'm all in on one team, I'm all in on the quarterback. And
checks out.
Be a little weary. Caleb got benched last year for Spencer at the end of the year. People forget that. Caleb got benched. So I think he has a little chip on his shoulder, especially because an entire fan base hates him. And he's so young. He's like, why does everyone hate me? I'm just doing what's best for me. Like, I'm sure if I got offered $2 million to go back home to Southern California, play for USC with my best bud, Mario Williams and Jordan Addison, the Biletnikoff, fuck yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, so, twist my arm.
Yeah, Caleb, like but he was a true freshman last year, and people forget that he like made mistakes playing for Oklahoma as a true freshman. How often does USC, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama play true freshmen at quarterbacks?
Rarely, right? You got to be an otherworldly talent. Caleb Williams is.
Like, sorry, Trevor Lawrence kind of broke the mold for everybody, and everyone was like, oh, but he's not Trevor Lawrence. No one fucking was Trevor Lawrence, and even Trevor didn't start the year at quarterback. Like, I think it was really obvious last year that Caleb Williams was clearly better than Rattler, and I'm a Rattler guy. I think he's going to do fine at South Carolina. But put him on USC. It's with Lincoln Riley and all those weapons, and Travis Dye as running back, very veteran running back. Little keynote, USC hasn't had, like, a veteran running back in a while. They've often just mixing and matching running backs, which I don't really like for big schools. Now they have a veteran, Travis Dye, who comes in from Oregon and has, like, 33,000 yards under his belt, so it's just a shit ton of yards. So they're just loaded. They're fucking loaded. So give me Caleb at number 2. I'd probably just do Young at 3. This is the year maybe where I think Will Anderson will maybe finish the top 2, but I'll go Young or Anderson at 3. I don't really care.
It's just so hard defensively.
But Stroud's my pick, and then Caleb at 2. I know our boy Harrison thinks Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to win the Heisman, and he's just not. I'm sorry.
Hey, shout out Harrison. Love the guy, but can't be right all the time. Do you want to hit futures bets, or do we want to go right into college football week 1? How we feel?
If you want to hit futures bets, I have about 20 that I can read off, so you just let me know.
Okay, let's do this. We'll let you read off your futures bets. I was actually going to do my futures bets on Thursday's podcast, so we'll let you read off your futures. I will just say whether or not I'm in or out, right? You know what? Let's do this. Smash Hit Sports. We're going to do a little smash or pass, right? Okay. I'm going to smash or pass on Jake Circus's future bets. Man, this is going to be a beautiful internet clip. I love that for us. Look at my big brain go. We're going to do a little smash or pass here. We'll go through them. If you want to see my futures bets, tune into Thursday's pod. It's going to be good, but give them to me. What are your best futures? The Jake Circus, the Oracle, the genius.
So my best is LSU over 7. I don't think there's a world where they go 6-6. Even if it's a push, it's fine. I'll get my money back. But this is an 8. This is at worst an 8-win team in my opinion. I think they roll through Florida State. That's also my favorite week 1 bet is LSU -3. The thing that I think sets people off, like a little non-sexy with LSU, is the quarterback Daniels, who by the way has not been announced as quarterback yet, but he's the quarterback. He's the guy there. There's a reason Miles Brennan quit football. I mean, it's because Jaden Daniels is the quarterback. In 2019, Jaden Daniels lit the world on fire at Arizona State, and then
great for Arizona State, but they lost all their weapons.
They lost all their weapons, and then they didn't hire the coaches that left. They didn't rehire, so they had 8 coaches on the staff. They're a mess. Arizona State's a mess. I'm glad he got out of there. He has a Heisman candidate, All-American wide receiver in Keyshawn Butte. Dudes on defense. I mean, they're gonna rush. They're gonna attack the quarterback. So I won't get too far into it. But LSU is my kind of fun team this year that I'm gonna follow, and it starts week 1 Sunday night. Really fun game. They're gonna be ready, and I don't think Florida State's gonna be very ready for that. I assume we'll talk about that when we talk about our best bets for week 1.
Oh yeah.
But that's my LSU over 7. I got it at -125, and then I did it again at -140, which don't do that, but that's so embarrassing. Don't do that. But
do as I say, not as I do.
But I really like that. A little gold here.
Yeah, I'm gonna smash that one. I'm smashing that one too. I love the LSU bet.
Some group of 5 teams that I really like that I think were a little undervalued, a little chalky in terms of price. UCF over 8.5. I got at -160. I think this is a 10-11 win team, a team that can potentially be the group of 5 representative. I like UCF a lot this year. They have one of the best secondaries in all of college football. Not a returning quarterback, but many returning backs. Everyone on defense is coming back. And the big thing with UCF is they're 30-1 at home the last 5 years. So that's
the bounce house is a crazy place to play.
Week 2, and another team I like is Louisville. Week 2, Louisville goes to UCF. I have both teams over, so a little iffy there. Got to root for somebody. Yep. But Louisville goes to the bounce house in week 2. Super fun. But UCF I'm really high on. I think they're gonna give teams a lot of fits in the American. I think they're better than Cincinnati. Homecoming night, October 17th, I think it is. Cincinnati goes to the bounce house. A game that could be like a Friday. I think it's like a Friday night. Super fun game.
Yep.
Anyways, I like UCF. Also, we mentioned it. Fresno State also over 8.5.
Don't love know Fresno if State. I'm on them to win the conference.
Don't know if they have that 11-win type potential, but the Mountain West is kind of really top heavy this year with Air Force, Boise, SCSU, and then Fresno State. There's 2 in each division, so that's fun. But that's a fun race to follow. I like all 4 of those teams, but I think I like Fresno the most, if not Boise again. So we'll see. But Fresno over 8.5, and then I have Louisville over 6.5. This line was an absolute joke. Their schedule was kind of hard.
Cunningham is that dude.
They have a lot of guys coming back, and they got really unlucky last year. They had 3 really unlucky losses at the end of the year, and they're slated for a lot of positive regression. And their schedule is hard, but not crazy hard. It's hard, but look, returning quarterback, returning coach, returning coordinators at 6.5. I think they win more than 6 games. So give me their over there. Do I have any others? Futures? Oh, I like Michigan State's over. Michigan State.
I'm also on Michigan State. Smash. Love that.
Yeah, it's super low for. I think it was 7.5 for some reason is what I had it at.
7.5.
7.5, and then Toledo. Bet Toledo. They're favored in every single game except when they play Ohio State, and their over is 8. I mean, what the hell? Man, I'm just picturing it. It's gonna be a Tuesday night. They only play on Tuesday night once, so it's kind of unfortunate.
Yep.
But the Tuesday night when they play on action, and they're my favorite part about college football win totals is you can't win them in October or September, but you can sure as fuck lose them in September and October.
Yeah.
But Toledo, action on a Tuesday night, chef's kiss. So they're favored in 10 in every single game except when they play Ohio State. So give me the chalk there. I think their over under is 8 or 8.5.
Yep, I double bet Toledo, so I got them at 7.5. I got them early. and then I went in and I got them at 10 plus wins plus 450.
No way.
So yeah, I doubled down there. I'm high on
that.
Toledo, so love that for us. Oh, it feels good to have be on the same, because you crushed college football last year. For those of you who don't follow at Jake Circus on Twitter, please rectify that immediately, because you crushed college football last year. But it feels good to be on the same side as you there.
Season. I crushed bowl season. Don't give me too much credit.
Bro,
I went 20-5 in bowl season.
That was disgusting.
And my thing is I'm not an expert. There's no one on social media that is smart enough to be charging for picks. All my picks are for free. All my insights for free. So I'm proud of myself for doing that. I don't need to charge for picks. If I did, if I was so good, I wouldn't need to charge for picks. So
exactly.
Just don't buy picks. So that's my thing. It was last year. I went 20-5 in bowl season. I was clicking down the stretch.
Hell yeah.
So we're excited.
Oh, and we're gonna keep it hot. We're gonna stay hot.
Oh yeah.
So let's go through the college football week 1 slate. What I figured we'll hit the big games, right? Because there are a couple big games week 1. Honestly, it's a pretty good slate. I'm excited for this week 1 slate. And
I think everyone's really excited. I think everyone's just really excited because football's coming back. But I think when you sit down and look at the slate, it's like, holy fuck, Cincy, Arkansas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, a couple of good not ranked teams. Not we got the backyard brawl coming back on Thursday night.
So let's start with the backyard brawl, because one of the best rivalries in college football that isn't talked about. The backyard brawl is going to be incredible. West Virginia at Pitt. Pitt is a 6.5 point favorite. Over under is 51.5. Pitt lost a ton. They lost Kenny Pickett. They lost their Blitnikoff award-winning wide receiver. Pitt lost a lot. That being said, I think West Virginia might be dog shit. I really do think that West Virginia might be one of the worst teams in the Big 12 outside of, Kansas and all of that fun. But I'm going to take Pitt minus 6.5. I think the line might have moved to minus 7.5 now. Who you got in this one?
I'm on the same side, but I'm going to go a little more extreme. I think Pitt's a 10-win team again. I like Pitt a lot this year. Now you look at Pickett and Addison gone. I understand that, but they're going to have a really strong run game. Once again, it'll be better than it was last year. And I don't think Pickett went in the first round, but look, Slovis isn't going to throw for 5,000 yards. But in terms of doing what he needs to do, I think he's good enough to do that. But you said they lost a lot. They have 8 starters coming back on a defense that ranked in the top 10 in everything. Pat's gonna get them boys where they need to be at by the opener on Thursday. I think they beat West Virginia comfortably. So I also will take, it's at 7.5 now, and I still like it there.
Yeah. I'll honestly probably take it up to. I would take it up to 10 personally.
My favorite thing with Pitt last year is people act like it was this magic in a bottle type year, and maybe it was, because I'm not picking them to win the ACC. I think they're miles below where Clemson is right now. But they went 4-0 on the road, and they beat Clemson. So they had a really good year, and they showed people what Pat Notarizzi can do and what this program's all about. And I don't think they're just gonna sit down and say, "Oh, well, we lost our quarterback, so we're just gonna play football and whatever happens, happens." No, I think that they're hungry again. They have a mid-tier schedule, a couple tough games on the road. They end at Miami, and they have great opportunities to just get back on the wagon. And I think they're going to be good again, backed behind a strong defense.
Yeah, it should be an exciting year for Pitt. Shout out our boy Ravasio. I know the big Pitt fan. But the other Thursday night game that I'm really excited for, Purdue,
Missouri, Louisiana Tech.
Penn State.
Missouri, is it? Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Is it not Missouri, Louisiana Tech?
I'm pretty sure Missoula's a 23.5 point favorite.
It's 19 against Louisiana Tech.
Okay. So I'm assuming we're taking the Tigers. Are we backing the Tigers?
I don't like the spread because I don't think we're good enough to beat anyone by 3 touchdowns, but I might just put a half unit on the over so I have something to root for when I'm there. So we'll see.
Hey, points, baby. Love to see it. Love to see it.
Yeah.
So let's talk Penn State, Purdue. Penn State 3.5-point favorites. Over/unders 54.5. I'm going to take Purdue here. I think Aiden O'Connell's better than Sean Clifford, and I don't know if this is a hot take. I think Jeff Brom's a better coach than what's his face for Penn State. Can't think of his name. Who the hell is Penn State's coach?
Franklin.
Yeah, James Franklin. I honestly think Jeff Brom's a better coach. I'm going to take Penn State or Purdue. I'm going to take them on the money line. Give me a little upset city for the Boilermakers. They love to ruin somebody's season. Why not do it week 1?
I like Purdue. I like Aiden O'Connell. In terms of draft, very good quarterback class. He's at the top, towards the top, obviously.
Yeah.
I am not ballsy enough to bet the money line. I think this is a phenomenal spot for Purdue to get Penn State early this season. Penn State couldn't run the ball last year, and they couldn't really throw for yards either. It was really weird, Penn State, but they have the best secondary, hands down, I think, in college football. So it's tough. The number's 3.5. Now, some advice that I got when I just started off was you bet on numbers, not teams. This number is really, really sexy. I love the 3.5 because I think it's going to be a kind of maybe a low-scoring, nitty-type game, nitty-gritty Big Ten football, week 1. Hell yeah, fuck yeah, we're so back. And I have, you said a better coach. I don't disagree with that. Sure, they're in the same tier, but way better quarterback. And I don't think Penn State's like Purdue's defense isn't really good, but Penn State didn't show anything last year, or didn't do anything this offseason that tells me that they're just going to throw the ball all over Purdue. And if it's a close game in the fourth quarter, give me Aiden O'Connell. Maybe they win the game, but I think they at least keep it close and under a field goal. So give me that number at 3.5 before it gets down to 3. I'm surprised it's still there. It was at 4 and then went down to 3.5. I got it at 3.5. Almost took money line, but I didn't. But we are on the same side. In terms of just week 1, close game. I'll take the hook. Kind of still like it at 3, but can't get there on the money line. Just can't do it.
Yeah, and that's fine. Hopefully we're both on the right side of history there. Going into the biggest games then for the weekend, Utah at Florida in the Swamp. Cam Rising, Anthony Richardson. How are we feeling? Utah's a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, so Vegas says these teams are even. I don't agree with that. I think Utah's better than Florida, but you can't really put a number on. You can't. It's tough because you can't put a number on home field advantage in college football. Like in the NFL, it's 3 points. College, they say it's 3 points, but you go to the Swamp, it's more than you're getting more than 3 points there.
Yeah, so the difference between the Swamp and going out to Boise it's a hell of a difference.
So I'm on Florida. I think it's a super letdown spot for Utah. They won the conference last year. They did this whole big thing in the Rose Bowl. Metric-wise, it all says Utah because Florida's like a big unknown. But if you could just bet with numbers and numbers only in college football, it would be a lot easier than it actually is. So in terms of the spot, I think it's really tough for Utah. In the Urban Meyer game, too.
Yeah.
Not an Urban Meyer, our old friend Urban Meyer. But I think I'm just going to get nitty-gritty. I took the 3. I think the Sharps are aligning with me there, and it's now down to 2.5. I took the 3 and the money line. I'm not proud of it, but when it hits, I'm taking all the credit.
Yeah, I have to side Utah here just because it fits my narrative. So I need this. No, I need them to win.
Well, if they want to make the playoff, they have to win this game. So that's going for you, and that's why I was like, I'm really scared of this because I'm like, well, why is this number 3? Utah's way better. Florida has not only is Utah better, they were better last year, they're better this year, but Florida has the unknown. Like if Florida had a good returning quarterback, it'd be one thing, and if they had like a coach that if we know is good or not, they don't have either of those things. Now the upside with Napier and Richardson is sky high. Like these two can be something special. So I'm hoping I get that early on. We get some excitement in the Swamp with the emotions, and really they're going to play. Because Florida doesn't have playoff aspirations this year, but they can clearly play spoiler to Utah here. So spot wise, number wise, I'll take Florida and the money line just for a unit. But Utah's the better team, and if Utah wins this game, very impressive. They're off to a good start.
Yep. Utah, little statistic, Utah's 15-9 against the spread away since the last 5 years. So just, a little sprinkle.
If you follow me on Twitter, you know how much I love Kyle Whittingham. That's my guy. Kyle Whittingham's my guy.
Yeah.
But I have to side against him here, and I don't like it. So it is what it is.
I respect it. I think I know the side that you're going to be on this next game, just because I know the amount of slander that you like to pour onto the city of Cincinnati as a whole, even though you are a massive Bengals fan.
So ironic. It's so ironic. Like, yeah, keep going.
Cincinnati at Arkansas. Arkansas 6.5-point favorites. Over-unders 51.5. Jake, let me hear it. I need to hear it from you.
So I am on Arkansas, but it's not for the reasons you think. Yeah, last year I was so anti-Cincinnati. I think they deserve to be in the playoff, but I thoroughly predicted a blowout, and it was more than a blowout. Bama, it was a gentleman's blowout. They didn't belong there. So we can put that to bed. The whole Group of 5 playoff thing, we can put that to bed. So I'm fine with Cincinnati. They lost a shit ton. They're looking way different.
Yes.
But in terms of the number,
3 of their top 4 defensive backs, quarterback.
This line opened up like Scott. This line opened up at 8, which I thought was pretty true. I wasn't going to bet it at 8. And then obviously the Sharps brought it down to as low as 5.5. I also agreed with that. And now it's back up to 6. I might bet it. I have Arkansas on a teaser because I think they win this game. I actually teased Arkansas with Pitt in addition to going Pitt minus 7.5. So when Pitt went up from 6.5 to 7.5, I teased them with Arkansas, who just got moved to 6 this morning. So that's my play in this game. I haven't gotten to the window at the 6 yet because I didn't at 5.5. I don't really have a analytic side in this game. I just I like KJ Jefferson sort of, but the coaching for Arkansas is really good. And it is for Cincinnati too. So
I love Pittman. Fickell, both good coaches.
But no, it's Pittman, and then I think Arkansas is the best OC in college football, and Kendall Briles. So I like what Arkansas is doing. They're on the good path. They're doing a shit lot better than what we're doing here in Missouri. It's a fucking shit show.
Yeah.
But
hey, they're doing a lot of things right. They're doing a lot of things right down there.
My freshman year, we beat Arkansas 55-54 in a game we had no business winning, and then last year they knocked the shit out of us. They beat us by 40.
Yep. Arkansas 8-3 against the spread against ranked opponents since 2020. 15-7-1 against the spread since 2020 overall. So Sam Pittman, he might not win every game, but he sure as shit likes to cover. Oregon at Georgia. UGA 17.5-point favorites. Over-unders 51.5. Bo Nix. How do we... This game is either going to be like a 1-touchdown game or Georgia might wipe them from the face of the earth. There's going to be no in between.
I'm trying to find a side for the total because I want nothing to do with this spread. Now, there's another big game that's also a 17-point spread that I have a clear side on that we'll get to. But I really don't
51.5 is the total for Oregon, Georgia.
I don't like the side here at all. I kind of lean the under. That's probably where I'll get to, is the under 51.5.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I think Georgia's going to be productive on offense, like one of the most efficient offenses in terms of moving the ball. But in terms of volume, that's not what they're going to be good at. So I think both teams are going to try to run the ball. So give me the under. But I don't have a side. It's tough. Something like this is tough where I don't know what to expect from Georgia, and I don't know what to expect from Oregon. But I expect both teams to try to run the football. So give me the under there.
I agree. It is going to be I don't have a pick on the spread, honestly. I couldn't find any information either way that I really felt convicted about. So I'm going to stay away from that one. However, I will be watching. Are we going to talk about the other 17.5-point game? Might as well.
You probably don't want to hear my answer.
This is one of the most... Well, okay. I am a massive Notre Dame fan. even I will admit that the only reason that they are ranked number 5 right now is so that we can have a top 5 matchup in week 1 of college football. That is the only reason that they are ranked here. Because as soon as they play Ohio State, they're going to get knocked down probably outside of the top 10. And then everybody's going to be like, okay, that's better. That's probably where they belong a little bit. Because Notre Dame does not have a top 5 roster right now. They don't. And I like Marcus Freeman as a head coach. There's still going to be some growing pains. So Notre Dame at Ohio State. Ohio State's 17.5-point favorites. Over-unders 58.5. I've never seen a spread this wide for a top 5 matchup. But Jake,
remind me, did Marcus Freeman wasn't coaching the bowl game, right? When they collapsed, that was Brian Kelly.
No, Marcus Freeman was coaching the bowl game.
It was Marcus Freeman. Okay,
yes,
that's what I thought.
Brian Kelly was out of town before that. Yep.
Right, I had the dates mixed up. I don't hate this Notre Dame team. I mean, they're kind of good every year. They kind of have the same look every year. Big question marks at quarterback. Big question marks at quarterback.
I don't know how I feel about Buckner. He's.
But I think my Ohio State bet here, which I am on Ohio State for multiple units, very public. It's kind of nasty. It's not public. Actually, Notre Dame. I saw it earlier. Notre Dame's very close to being a public dog, which I like. I love that because I'm on Ohio State. You give a 17.5-point favorite and the public's on the other team. Love that. But it's very chalky. Just to say, I think they're going to kill him. But no, I think Ohio State puts up 45, 50 points in this game. It's over by halftime. They just have. I think Ohio State's just going to have this look to them this year, and I don't think they're going to win it all. But I think they're just going to have this mean look to them, where they're just going to just demoralize everyone they play. It's something going to be like similar to like LSU, but in like a more of like a revenge type way because of how much shit they got for losing to Michigan in a game that they was just meant for them to lose. That game was meant for Ohio State to lose. And look, they lost once to Michigan in the last 20 years. Like, why are we giving them so much shit? It's because we hate the Buckeyes, right? But no, they're gonna. I don't think this game's gonna be close. They're gonna score. Hopefully, their first 4 drives out there. It's just gonna be yards, and just an onslaught. Notre Dame's schedule is tough this year. They have Ohio State, Clemson, and USC.
Yep.
But we'll see.
It's not going to be easy.
They've won a ton of games without good quarterback play in the past, but that was with Brian Kelly. So we'll see what Marcus Freeman can pull out there. But I'm excited to see him. I think he's been a great DC, and I think the defense is still in really good hands with him. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Notre Dame. I expect double-digit wins, as always, but losing the big games, which is what their MO is. And the fact that they blew with 3 possessions.
Their over-unders 8.5.
Their over-unders 8.5?
Yes.
Like wins?
Their win total is 8. Yes. Their win total is 8.5 wins.
So they'll lose to Ohio State. They'll beat Marshall, Cal. They should beat UNC. BYU is a tough one. That game's in Las Vegas. Stanford, UNLV, Syracuse at the Carrier Dome. Clemson at home. They play Navy in Baltimore, BC, and then SC. Where's their 4 losses on that schedule?
I don't see a 4th loss. Don't get me. I'm not high on Notre Dame as I don't think they have a shot to compete for the college football playoff this year. 9 wins. I don't see how they don't get 9 wins. And I personally think they will lose 2 of Ohio State, Clemson, and USC. I think they will win one of those games.
So the line moved recently. So the line moved recently. It's at 9 now at plus 100. So meaning it moved recently.
Yep.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of money coming out of the 8.5, which makes sense. But I think if they go 8-4, we're in a situation where is Marcus Freeman really the guy? Because Brian Kelly, what's it like 12 of the last 13 years won at least 8 or 9 games?
Yeah. Here's the only thing with Freeman yet that recruiting is part of the reason why he excelled at UC. I mean, the athletes that they got defensively were insane the last couple of years. He has a higher ranked 2023 class than Brian Kelly had in his 12 years at Notre Dame. So
there you go. We'll see what they do.
I want to see that first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that he'd be on the hot seat yet, but we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, Snead, Wagner, Merriweather, Ford, bunch of guys coming in the class.
Yeah.
But I think
Gotta love
Ohio
it.
State kills them. I think they kill them.
So
So
let's talk about the game we mentioned earlier. Florida State at LSU. LSU's 3.5-point favorites now. Over unders 51.5. So you're saying Jaden Daniels is going to be the starting quarterback at LSU. I'm going to be honest. The Nuremberg, he got some playing time at the end of the year last year as a true freshman.
yeah.
But, he was solid for him last year. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it matters. I think they boat race Florida State.
So my thing with LSU is that I like Daniels. I'm not like gonna be like I think he's really good, and I liked him as a draft prospect after his freshman year, and then he like went to shit because of how bad that program was. Now he's out of the program and now gets to get coached by Brian Kelly. I think that's a match made in heaven there. So I'm banking on Jane Daniels going back to form because he can run and he can throw the ball. He has a cannon and he can run. Yeah. So that's my thing with LSU is it's not just that they have a great roster. They're an SEC team. Of course they have a good roster. They had a good roster last year. Look what happened. But no, I think they're going to get good quarterback play from Jane Daniels. Now I understand why Kelly doesn't want to reveal his hand yet and say that Daniels won the job. But I think internally everyone knows that he's the guy. I feel like it's been that way all like the whole time. That's why Miles Brennan quit football. I already said that. But Florida State's also very talented. They are every year, and I think they might have found the guy in Mike Norvell. But they return a lot of guys. But that team sucked last year, and they weren't fun to watch, and they weren't good. And they return 8 players on each side of the ball, but including their quarterback, Travis, who's awful. So you're gonna make me lay 3 points on a team that's home. You're gonna so Florida State going to a super hostile environment
Death
on
Valley,
a standalone game,
night.
Death Valley, Sunday night. I think it's a hell spot for Florida State. I don't care if people think they're going to be better this year. I think they're going to be better this year. They're probably going to go over their win total of 7.5. But this is one of their losses. Everyone knows this is one of their losses. They're not winning this game. They're not winning. This is like Florida State has shown me nothing the last 5 years that they can turn the corner that quickly and go into this atmosphere and beat a team like this. I haven't seen it in 5 years, and if they do it to open up this year, then maybe they're better than we thought. But overall, this is not a great team, and I think LSU's a great team.
Yep, I'm with you on this one. Jake, what are some of your best bets for the rest of the games? I know we hit a lot of the big ones. Do you have any other, smaller market games that you're looking to take advantage of?
So I am getting a little grimy here. I'm taking the East Carolina Pirates plus 11
let's get dirty.
Against NC State. Now, part of this is because Harrison Vatnick picked NC State to make the playoff, and I would love nothing more than to that. He picked Utah and he picks Utah and NC State.
Week 1.
He picked Utah as 3 and NC State at 4. I don't think NC State I don't think NC State loses the game, but plus 11. It's a pretty decent spread. I get the hook and more on a team that has a returning quarterback, a head coach that's really turned the corner. They played really good the end of the year last year, covered like 5 consecutive games. At home, playing spoiler to a non-conference team. Now, they played 3 years ago, and East Carolina lost by like 50, but I don't really care because that was 3 years ago.
That is not the same team that,
I don't care. I don't care. But, so I have them plus 11 as a little, for a unit. Louisville minus 4.5 at the Carrier Dome. A little bit of a tough environment there, week 1, but Syracuse isn't on the same level as Louisville. They don't have the quarterback play or the defense or the coaching. So I also took Louisville minus 4.5.
I love Malik Cunningham.
Yeah. And then a little sharp pick that I recognized this morning. Boise State, Oregon State under 56.5. 2 very strong defenses.
I'm on that too.
So it opened up at it opened up at 60 a couple weeks ago, was steamed down a lot over the last couple of days, and I got it before it got to 56, which if you don't know, 56 is a key number for over-unders because 8 times 7 is 56. 7 is a touchdown, so that's a key number in over-unders. So I got it at 56.5, so that's good. I like both defenses. Both teams I think are going to be good this year. And it's week 1, so we kind of have that theory of, teams start slow week 1, which I don't know how much I believe, but we'll see. But I like that under. And then we talked about Purdue plus 3.5. That's also on my card. App State, I got them at plus 2. They're now favorites to win the game.
Ooh,
It's
yeah.
a pick 'em,
Okay, I
and
saw
they're
them
home.
at Pick'em. Yeah.
It's a pick 'em now, which means they're the home team. So I assume they're favored on the money line because they're the home team as a pick 'em. So they're probably the favorite. I got them at 2 when I saw it was getting steamed down from 3.5. So I got them at 2. I would still be fine if you told me, oh, I picked money line. Sure, pick 'em on the money line. They probably win the game against North Carolina. North Carolina has Mac Brown as head coach and Gene Chisholm as defensive coordinator. Or Chisholm.
Gene Chisholm.
It's Chisholm. Yeah, Chisholm.
Yeah.
Or Chisholm, the old Auburn coach. Chisholm or Chisholm?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the old fuck from Auburn. Like,
yeah, it's
I saw that
Chisholm.
today.
Yeah.
I saw that today, and I was like, "What the? They're just missing Joe Paterno." I like
just the oldest coaching staff of all time.
Rest in peace, Joe Paterno. But yeah, I mean, come on. App State has a really fun football environment. Week 1, that takes place. They tweeted in like July that they already are sold out for Week 1. To me,
That's nuts.
So that's a game that I'll be keeping a close eye on. I think App State plays spoiler there to a big Power 5 team, and they win that game.
I love that. Some of the games I'm on, TCU minus 13.5. I want to get them before they get to 14. Colorado sucks. I just think that they beat the brakes off of Colorado. I kind of like TCU as a whole this year. I think they're pretty solid defensively. They got a new coach after the guy was there for 20 years though.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the Big 12, but TCU is a sleeper in the Big 12. I think the top 4 are really good. And then there's Kansas State, who I also have over 6.5. By the way, I forgot to mention that over 6.5 for K-State. And then TCU is slated to be pretty good. So yeah, I like that.
Yep, I'm on the over for Kansas State as well. I have BYU minus 12.5. Not really. I just kind of like BYU as a whole this year. I think they're underrated. So
they're a sleeper playoff team. They can get in with one loss. If shit hits the fan, BYU can get in with one loss. There's enough wins on that schedule they can get in with one loss.
That would be crazy. Another game I have, little underdog on the money line. I'm going with Purdue, and I'm also going with Army. They're just barely underdogs against Coastal. I like Coastal, but I think they lost a ton offensively. They lost Likely. They lost, I think, their top wide receiver and running back. I think it was something like 60% of their offensive production they lost. But they are bringing back Grayson McCall. That being said, give me Jeff Monken's squad. He's just such a good coach.
Yeah, he is. BYU, I was looking at BYU. The only thing that's going to tempt me from betting that is they're on the road and they play Baylor next week. So a little tough there. My favorite thing to do in college football is the look ahead spot, especially when they're on the road. So they can't it's tough. So yeah. And a team like BYU who needs to win these games against Baylor, they need to win those because they don't have a conference championship, so they can't get revenge on a team they lose to early in the season. But that's the only thing that kind of pushes me away. But I think BYU is really good, and I like them a lot. I think if BYU opens up as a dog, I think they're at home against Baylor, right? They have them at home in Provo.
I would have to check.
But either way, if they open up as a dog in that game, which I think they will,
it's at home.
I'm on BYU in that game. Little shout out. Look ahead to week 2. BYU over Baylor. They're
love that.
One of the best defenses in the country. They're phenomenal. They're going to be really fun.
Love that. We talked about the Boise State, Oregon State total, so I'm going to skip over that one. I'm also on ULM and Texas under 63.5. I think that game gets out of hand very quickly, and I don't think ULM is going to score a lot of points. So that just seems
that would make sense to kind of what I believe too. I don't have a play yet on that game. I kind of wanted to lean Louisiana Monroe. Same reason. Texas plays Alabama next week. But I don't really want to bet on a team that's getting 36 points. But the under certainly, that's probably where I'll get to on that game. I mean, I'm not going to watch it, so I don't really care. But the game script makes sense there. So yeah, I'm aligned with you there. Don't take overs in games that are going to be blowouts, because then you're rooting for bad teams. Because then you're rooting for bad teams and backups to score points. Overs get there, it's a coin flip, but if you think a game's gonna be a blowout, lean to the under, because then you're rooting for backups and just overall bad teams.
I have not heard that take before, but I actually love that. I love that.
You know what? Just gotta bring me on more, man. I got some goals for you.
Oh, we're clipping that and throwing it on the Twitter, the TikTok, the Instagram, all that good stuff. Last play I got, Memphis plus 14.5. I just think Mississippi State is overrated a little bit.
Really?
So, yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I just think they're bad defensively. I think Memphis has enough athletes to keep this game inside 14. So I just wanted to grab it before it got down.
I was looking at that game yesterday. I couldn't find a side. I like Ole Miss. Not sure I really like Mississippi State. I think they're going to run the ball really well, and they're going to pass. No, sorry. They're obviously not going to run the ball really well.
Yeah.
Their head coach is. They're going to throw the ball a lot. And I think they have a lot of they have like 9 starters coming back on defense.
Yeah.
So they'll be okay. But yeah, 15 is kind of a lot against Memphis in week 1. But I don't have a side there either. But yeah, I can get with you there. Little Memphis action.
Love that.
Grays.
Hey, look, I'm all about it. And look, if you guys enjoyed this kind of stuff, the amount of information that Jake has inside of his brain is literally untapped. So make sure you guys go give him a follow at Jake Circus, Sirkus on Twitter. I'll make sure to pin all of his stuff in the description of the podcast and the YouTube video, the whole 9 yards. So make sure you go and listen to the Jake Circus podcast because we're back for season 2. Can't wait. So
a little bit of a little shout out, not shout out to myself, but if you do follow me on Twitter, lots of football, but you will see me count towards like 50, 55. That's just Aaron Judge's home run. So that's still there's football, and then there's however many home runs Aaron Judge has at the moment. Whenever he hits one, I just say, oh, number 50, number 49. So that's what that is.
Yeah, I did forgot that I hated that you were a Yankees fan. But I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen. Make sure that if you make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. If you enjoy this content, please reach out. Let me know. Tweet at me. I really, really appreciate it. And if you like it, tell a friend. If you don't like it, keep that shit to yourself. Don't tell anybody. But thanks again for listening. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff at Smash Hit Sports. Let's win some money this weekend. College football is back.